And these right here are the best controller binds in Fortnite. Let me explain why. Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be helping you find the best controller settings in Fortnite. Now, in my last settings video, I actually went over all the settings and sensitivities, but in this video, I'm going to be focusing more so on controller binds and what binds you should use as either a claw or non-claw player. In this video today, I'm just going to be helping you become a lot better builder, a lot faster ever, and just an all-round, a lot more consistent player. But if you do go on to enjoy today's video, a like is definitely appreciated, and subscribe with notifications on to never miss a video. I also got some pretty cool secrets to show you today, so make sure you watch the full video because you're not going to want to miss those. The first secret being actually using code FLEA in the item shop secretly doubles your edit speed. Don't tell anyone though, we're going to keep this one a secret. Now, but anyway, let's get right into the video. So as you can see with these spam edits, it's just edit, select, and confirm as fast as I can, and it's a good combination because I got all three fingers ready. Ooh, alright. Alright ladies and gentlemen, so we are in creative and let's go ahead and jump into an edit map and get started. Just gonna load up the world's best editing map made by none other than your boy. That was cringe. And there it is, the editing dictionary V2 jumping in. By the way, as soon as you load in, if you just want to press the support a creator button and use code FLEA, that helps me out a lot. I really appreciate it. Alright, so in today's settings video, I'm not so much going to focus on all these simple settings. I did actually cover these in my last settings video. What I'm mainly going to be focusing on is controller binds, but I will be going over my new controller sensitivities as well. So I'm only going to be going over the important stuff in this video, so not going to talk about anything here. The only things you really need to know on this page is confirm edit on release. You definitely want to have that on. Obviously, you want turbo building on. Nothing else down here, and we're going to jump straight into the controller settings. So my controller sensitivities is something I've been playing a lot with lately. I've tried the fastest editor settings, I've tried face sway settings, and I used to play on such high controller sensitivities, like I was up in the 90s. Little did I know that the lower your sensitivities, the actual faster you can be with building, editing, and just overall consistency. So I think this is what I had it on 60 and 55. Now you do want your vertical sensitivity lower than your horizontal. The best way to explain why is that vertically is basically up and down, and when you move up, there is a limit to how far you can go up. As well as you look down, there's a limit to how far you can look down, which means these sensitivities are limited by your range of motion, which means it's a lot shorter distance, whereas if you go left and right, it's infinite. Your vertical range of motion is only 180 degrees just from top to bottom, whereas your horizontal is 360 degrees. So because the vertical range of motion is shorter, you do want to have that sensitivity lower. Now I would recommend having it about 5 to 10% lower. I'm only doing 5% because I don't like my vertical sensitivity too slow because I mainly play creative, but play around with it a bit. I reckon about 7% lower is perfect. As far as your build and edit mode goes, pretty much anything around the 2.0 range is going to be perfect. And you've probably all heard this 100 times, but don't use any boost whatsoever on anything, not your ADS sensitivities or your normal sensitivities. Using boosts in Fortnite will lead to inconsistencies in your aiming because it does actually boost your sensitivity when your analog stick gets to a certain angle. I in fact used to play with boosts, but ever since I turned it off, I became so much more consistent. Your ADS sensitivity is kind of just personal preference. I do recommend having them a lot lower than you think. When you're aiming down sights, if you feel like you're over swinging and you can't lock onto your enemy, especially now that they've reduced aim assist, then definitely lower your ADS settings. Try and get them as low as you can go, but not too low where you can't keep up with your enemy. And yeah, that's about it for everything else. I do recommend linear, although if you did just start playing Fortnite, then play on exponential, because I'm pretty sure most other games use the exponential layout, but when you really want to start improving your mechanics, linear is the way to go. I'm going to talk about dead zones in just a second, and that is everything for these settings. And now let's get into controller binds. Alright, now coming over to controller binds, now you're probably like, Flea, what is that? Let me explain. So basically, if you didn't watch my video I posted a couple of days ago, I highly recommend you go watch that after this. But basically, this generic input layout actually doubles your edit speed. But because I'm going to be talking about controller binds, I'm actually just going to go to the PS4 layout just so you can kind of understand what I'm saying. But yes, I actually still do play on the generic layout. So rather than me sit here and talk about my controller binds, I'm going to set up the hand cam and just show you. Alright, so first things first, if you haven't noticed by now, I obviously use control freaks. Now I do use one Galaxy control freak on my right stick. You can actually get yours with a link in the description. Now the reason I'm not using the limited edition ones in this video is because I didn't want to confuse people with the color, because you can't actually get these anymore, and I didn't want people searching the website for like a pink and black control freak. But yeah, control freaks help a lot with aiming and accuracy. I definitely couldn't play without them. Alright, so I'm only going to be talking about the important binds, so I'm not going to be going over like map, emote wheel, mark enemy, like those are all personal preference. I'm only going to be going over the really important binds. So first off, in my opinion, the most important controller bind is switch mode, because switch mode is a bind that you press hundreds of times per game, and it's what allows you to switch between your weapons and building. So yeah, for controller players, it's really important. Another really important bind in Fortnite is jump. Once again, you jump literally hundreds of times per game. It's a very important button that you need to have accessible all the time. And lastly, your edit bind. If I was making this video 2 years ago, editing definitely wouldn't be on the list, but in 2020, editing literally makes up 90% of how you outplay your opponent in Fortnite. Literally everything about the game nowadays is editing, so it's very important. Now that I've given you the 3 most important binds on a controller, now I'm going to give you the best buttons in which you should bind them to. So first off, the best button on the controller for claw and non-claw players is L3 by far. L3 is basically pushing down your left analog stick, and it's always going to be accessible because you're always moving in Fortnite, which means you can always press the button whenever you need to. So I got one of my most important binds, switch mode, and I bound it to that. L3 switch mode is so good. Literally whenever I'm moving around in Fortnite, no matter when, I can always switch in and out of builds because my thumb is always on that left analog stick. Now another really good button on the controller is obviously R3 as well, because your thumb's always going to be on that right analog stick. Binding R3 to jump or edit can actually be a very smart thing to do. So let's just say you bind R3 to jump, then the last thing you want to bind is edit, and me personally, I use touchpad to edit. Now I know touchpad is more of a claw bind because as you can see, I press claw like that when I want to edit, but it can also be a non-claw button. If you do want to press the top of the touchpad up here, you can kind of rest your finger up the top. Whether you want to use your left finger or your right, you can actually edit from the top of the button. So that's something a lot of people don't actually know, is you can actually just press the top of the touchpad, and whether you want that to be jump or edit, it's really easy to press as a non-claw player. Super underrated button. Touchpad is such a good edit button. I've in fact used it on other controllers for years, and the touchpad has never broken. So yeah, there are your 3 most important binds with the 3 best buttons on the controller. But yeah, now let's go over my binds really quickly. So here they are. So like I said, switch mode is L3, touchpad is edit, and I use X to jump because I do play claw. And then all my other binds are not that important. Let's go over to build controls. Once again, nothing really special here. Now my editing controls, I actually do use R1 to select. I've been using R1 to select for years now, and I'm actually starting to see pro players use it as well. And well, long story short, they love it. Your confirm and reset buttons just come down to personal preference, and that is about it. We're just gonna finish on dead zones. So with your left stick dead zone, honestly, anything under 15 is fine. You don't have to go super low with your left stick because it's just what your player moves with. But with your right stick dead zone, you obviously want it as low as possible so you don't get any like input delay when you're moving the analog stick. And yeah, that is gonna be it for this video. So I hope I helped some of you out choosing your controller binds. Let me know down in the comments what you jump, edit, and switch mode is. I'd love to know. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.